What's up, everybody? Welcome to SLC Puck! USA! 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 Woo! Did you guys see what happened last night? I'm not talking about Mac McClung, NBA G Leaguers win in the slam dunk contest. Who gives a crap about that? I'm talking about Four Nations face-off, USA, Canada, all-timer, unbelievable matchup last night in Montreal. Team USA comes away with a 3-2 victory. But here's the crazy part. It was a fight. There were 3 fights, and a hockey game broke out afterwards. It was nuts. And if you saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see clips all over social media. It was a huge, huge night for hockey in North America and arguably hockey all over the world, really. And it was a pleasure to watch that, and it's a thrill to be with you guys. I'm your host, Austin Facer. You're listening to SLC Puck. NHL on a little bit of a break right now due to the Four Nations face-off, so we don't have a lot of recent Utah Hockey Club games to talk about right now, but we're going to talk a little bit about trade deadline stuff. We'll recap last night's USA-Canada Four Nations face-off, an all-timer being played out in Montreal, as I said. But hey, you know the most exciting thing is about today, really? More than just thinking about last night's game, it was finding my Team USA jersey that I wore during the 2002 Olympics as a little boy. This must have drowned me as a 9-year-old because it fits pretty good for me now at 32. So, this is fun. I'm going to wear this all over town today. Might wear it out to the bars, to the clubs, to see if I can get some action there, get some attention, all that good stuff. But if you're looking for something to wear when you're out for a night on the town, I recommend heading over to slcpuck.shop. There's lots of great stuff there. We got some new hats, shirts for the kiddos, beanies, t-shirts, pieces of flair, all that good stuff. This hat, the upside down hat is a real good one. I know a lot of people love this hat. I do too. I wear my SLC Puck upside down hat all the time. I want to give a birthday shout out before we start, really get rolling, to my good buddy Sawyer, who wanted a hat for his birthday. So I met up with his dad, and we made, it probably looked like we were selling nefarious things. We met up in a parking lot and exchanged goods for a hat. And so I was happy to do that for Sawyer on his birthday. Crazy that someone wanted an SLC Puck hat for their birthday. So I think they're great for any occasion, to tell you the truth. So big happy birthday goes out to Sawyer and his family. It was great to meet Bill as well, make the exchange there. So super fun. If you want to get your own hat, please feel free to do so. It's a great way to support the show. slcpuck.shop. Oh, and getting a little bit more active with my social media too. So I'm putting more sketches, fun stuff. I gave away some Valentine's Day cards to people outside of Delta Center on Valentine's Day. So we made a fun little video about that. So check that out anywhere great videos are found. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at SLC Puck. That's where you can find me on all of them. Sorry, a couple more plugs, then we'll jump into the good stuff. I had the pleasure of being on a couple other podcasts this week. I was on the Utah Hockey Podcast with Michael and Kelly. That one was a lot of fun, so make sure you check that out. And Michael runs a great Instagram, social media platform as well, NHL Utah. So make sure you follow them as well. So big thanks to them for having me on. I also had the immense pleasure being on 99.6 The Howl with Julian, who's done a lot of great work covering the Coyotes for years. He's continued that over into his coverage of the Utah Hockey Club. So I was honored to be his first ever guest, which was very flattering. And we had a really nice conversation. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And make sure you stay tuned to KSL.com's coverage of the Utah Hockey Club and the Utah Jazz as well and all that good stuff. Ryan Miller is doing a really great job. All right, that's all the plugs. Tons of plugs. Oh, one more plug. We still have the giveaway going on with Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers and Jonathan's Jewelry. So make sure you hit this QR code, scan to win, send a text message. I'll have an ad playing for them here in just a second as well. But let's get back to the subject matter at hand. We're talking to you guys on February 16th. Woo! The morning after. I guess it's afternoon after now. But man, I'll say this. The NHL struck gold by putting on the Four Nations face-off. It is so incredible that the atmosphere watching on TV like made my heart beat out of my chest, just seeing like all the lights, all the patriotism that was on display at the Bell Center up in Montreal, where the Canadians play. That's hockey at its finest. That like there is no bigger stage for hockey than what happened last night. There's probably going to be another one when you could argue Team USA and Canada may perhaps play for the championship of this little tourney on Thursday in Boston. To get there, Canada is going to have to beat Finland tomorrow, which I think seems very possible. I think they're a huge favorite according to the Vegas betting odds. But man, was last night such an incredibly important night for hockey in North America, and in particular hockey in the United States of America. Hey, what's up, guys? Quick interruption here to pay some bills. I want to remind you about our fantastic giveaway we're doing in partnership with Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers and Jonathan's Jewelries. Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers is at Charlie Square. Jonathan's Jewelry, Cottonwood Heights. Two incredible locations. One great giveaway for you guys as listeners and supporters of SLC Puck. I've been doing this giveaway. I've been giving away $250 gift cards like I'm frickin' Oprah or something. You get a gift card. You get a gift card. You get a gift card. I've given away like 6 gift cards already. We've got 2 new winners this week. They've been notified. They're thrilled out of their minds. They've got the gift cards. Super, super, super happy we could do that, especially now. We're a couple days after Valentine's Day, and my assumption is that a couple of you are in trouble for something. So this is a great way to get out of the penalty box, so to speak. So enter the giveaway, $250 again off any purchase at Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers or Jonathan's Jewelry. Oh, but wait, there's more. If you go into either one of those locations and just mention SLC Puck, you don't need to be a winner for this. They'll give you $100 off of your purchase. Just boom, no questions asked. Bada bing, bada boom, just like that. So enter the raffle. If you've entered already and you haven't won, guess what? You're still in it. So good news there. But keep entering. Grab some phones. Grab your mom's phone. Grab your wife's phone. Grab your kid's phone. Enter this raffle right now. QR code's right here. I've even drafted the text for you. All you got to do is scan, hit send. You're in, and $250 to Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers or Jonathan's Jewelry could be headed your way. So big thanks to both of those locations. Same ownership for doing this incredible promotion with SLC Puck. And let's get back to the episode right now. I mean, just consider this, okay? We're talking to you guys in February. This is what happens in the sports world in February. A little something I like to call the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift show, aka the Super Bowl. NBA All-Star Game, All-Star Weekend, also going on in February as well. The NHL was competing against both of those this month, you could argue, although the Super Bowl was a week ago now. But this weekend, they're competing with the NBA All-Star Game, which is happening in San Francisco. The Golden State Warriors are hosting it. And I'll tell you what, the superior product on Saturday night was the one on ESPN and ABC, the Four Nations face-off put on by the NHL. They blew the sporting world away with an insane performance right off of the drop. By the way, they wasted no time. If you're a fan of hockey already, or if you're a new fan, or if you're not even a fan of hockey at all, maybe you're just flipping through channels, looking for something to watch. You ended up on ESPN, perhaps thinking you'd be watching some NBA All-Star Saturday night action. You tuned in to a true spectacle, and you have to give a tip of your cap to the Tkachuk brothers for what they did for the sport last night. Coming out and putting all the drama in a blender, right? So think about this. So the United States and Canada having a little bit of political tension right now. I'm not going to go too much into that, but we know that there's some tension in the news. If you've been watching CNN or Fox News, you know there's been some discussion. There's some animosity right now, and that was very apparent even before the puck dropped, right? So, you know, the Canadian crowd up there in Montreal booed the American national anthem, right? It was so funny to watch it on TV because you could hear the public address announcer say something like, "Hey, we're playing these anthems. Let's be respectful," you know, because they knew what was going to happen. I don't think a lot of people in Montreal gave that a lot of consideration. You could still hear the booing pretty well through the sound, through the mix on the player. And then if you watched, some social media videos from people who were in the arena, yes, it was very clear that the Canadians booed the heck out of the American anthem. So what did the American team do? Right off the drop, the Tkachuk brothers got to business and started some fights. There were 3 fights within 90 seconds. That would have been something. It was faster. Within 9 seconds of the game beginning, both Brady and Matthew Tkachuk fight. JT Miller fought the third one. The penalty boxes became full real quick. And again, if you're new to hockey, you probably watched that and you went, what the heck is this sport? This is insane. They're like fighting and it's like they still got a whole game to play afterwards. It was electric. The building was on fire at the Bell Center. It was one of those things like you wish so badly you had been there to experience that. The building got even more electric. I think the roof actually came off of the Bell Center from what I heard. I'm joking, of course, but that wouldn't, I mean, in a figurative sense, or literal, figurative, one of those two. I think I mean figurative. It was absolutely bonkers. Let me just pull up the box score here just so I get the timeline right here. So, yeah, I mean, just 5 minutes into the first period, 5 minutes, 31 seconds, Connor McDavid, best player in the world, pride of Canada, center for the Edmonton Oilers, scores the opening goal real fast, cut through the middle of the ice real quick, scored, I believe, a backhander over Connor Hellebuck to give Canada a 1-0 lead. But from there on out, it was America's night up in Montreal. They scored 3 unanswered goals, 2 by Jake Gensel, 1 by Dylan Larkin. So really, really cool to get like some depth guys comparatively to the rest of the roster, right? It's a loaded roster. They're saying it might be the best American team ever put together, and that's kind of hard to argue, especially what we saw last night. At times, they really, really, really dictated the pace. Interestingly, Canada led in puck possession pretty considerably, but I thought the American defense was really stalwart, in particular Connor Hellebuck, who is the goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets, who is probably going to win the Hart Trophy as the NHL's MVP, certainly going to win the Vezina as the best goaltender in hockey. I thought he had a really, really strong performance. On the other end, Jordan Bennington, who's the St. Louis Blues goaltender, I thought let in a couple softies. So the United States having the advantage in goal was definitely huge for the outcome of this game. But there was hitting, it was an extremely physical game. Charlie McAvoy from the Boston Bruins was all over the ice, especially in the first period. I mean, the energy was palpable. I was sitting in my little basement apartment in Sugar House, my heart beating out of my chest the first few minutes of this game. Just so exhilarating. And again, for the United States, this was such a key moment in I'm going to say our hockey moment that we're having as a country. To beat, this really stacked Canadian roster in Canada is a huge, huge feather in our cap. I mean, just look at the Canadian team, right? So Sidney Crosby's there, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, and Mitch Marner, who did play. He did play. Connor McDavid, Mark Stone, Drew Doughty, who took a huge hit from Matthew Tkachuk at one point. For the United States to come in and beat Canada on their home ice in a very hostile crowd was insanely big, and they dominated the sports discussion last night. Something that does not always happen for the NHL, in particular on a night when they're competing with NBA All-Star festivities. And we all know, here in Utah, having hosted an NBA All-Star game not too long ago, how big of a deal that can be. But the Tkachuk brothers were the story last night. They were the Bash brothers. They were the Hanson bros. They were all over the ice. But it did kind of raise a concern towards the end of the game, and it sort of lends into the point that I made on the last episode, where I said I'm not exactly that disappointed that Clayton Keller didn't make the American roster, that he was snubbed off the team despite being one of the leading scorers among American skaters this season in the NHL. Because some of what happens in this tournament is not great for the NHL teams who send their representatives to this thing. We saw Matthew Tkachuk had to take himself off the ice for the last 12 minutes or so because he had some sort of lower body injury. It sounded like maybe some kind of groin thing. Shea Theodore, who's a defenseman for the Vegas Golden Knights, also got injured, I believe, in Canada's first game. against Sweden. I think he probably an upper body injury, so maybe like a broken wrist or something. So he's going to miss some time for the Golden Knights in a really critical part of the season. And again, that's why I'm not too bummed out about, the Utah Hockey Club not having a ton of representatives in this thing. The one representative that has hit the ice so far, Olli Mata, has played really, really well for Finland. He had a slick little assist in their game against Sweden, which was a 3-2 or 4-3 overtime victory. So, I'm that's great. I can live with that. I'm happy as a Utah Hockey Club fan that we get a guy who's scoring a point, right? That's fine. I'm way more interested in what's going to happen the rest of the season for the Utah Hockey Club. And I think not having guys in this tournament is sort of a positive, especially considering the playoff push that the Utah Hockey Club is in. I mean, imagine what would have happened if, let's say, Clayton Keller made the American team and he breaks his wrist during the Four Nations face-off. I think we would all feel a little sick to our stomachs, considering, just how important this next stretch of games is for the Utah Hockey Club. Let's jump back into the standings here in the NHL. I'll pull it up for you guys to see. So again, hey, just going to remind you guys, I do this every freaking episode, so pay attention. NHL playoffs, two conferences in the NHL, 2 divisions in each conference. Top 3 teams in each division are in the playoffs, plus 2 wild card teams, the 2 teams with the next best records, right, are in. So let's just look right here and see where we're sitting. Utah's in the Western Conference, Central Division. They're outside of the top 3, but still within firing distance of the wild card spot. You can see right now the first wild card spot being held by the Colorado Avalanche. They have 68 points in the standings, it looks like. And then the Vancouver Canucks hold that second spot with 63. So that's the one the Utah Hockey Club is gunning for right now. They also trail Calgary, who's the first team out with 60 points, and then Utah's sitting right behind them with 57. So Utah's got a little bit of catching up to do to make up those 6 or 7 points to break into the standings. And what happens next for the Utah Hockey Club is really crucial. So we're going to look here at the what do we call it? The schedule, right? We still got some time before the Utah Hockey Club returns to the ice. Again, we're talking to you guys on February 16th. Their next game is on the 22nd at Los Angeles, playing against the Kings. And then they're back on home ice on the 23rd. So here I'm looking at the standings right now. If you're listening to me on Apple or Spotify, I'd switch over to YouTube. There's lots of great visuals here to check that out. But again, super, super critical stretch, because look at this little, I'm going to circle this with my cursor right here. March 7th. That's a very key date for the Utah Hockey Club. That's the NHL trade deadline. So what Utah is still so much on the bubble. It's hard to say what their trade deadline plans are either way. And maybe I'll talk about this in just a little bit. We had a really great question from one of our listeners on the SLC Puck hotline. So I'll play that question here in just a little bit. But look at the schedule here. So they really have to decide before the 7th if they're going to make the push or not for the playoffs, right? If they get out of the race by the time they play Detroit on the 6th, you might see a little bit of a fire sale. You might see the Utah Hockey Club getting rid of some of their expiring contracts, some guys who would probably walk in free agency. They might ship some of those guys out to a team that actually has a chance to be in the playoffs and or win a Stanley Cup, so that they can get some assets back for that. So it's going to be really important, right? So they need to win the majority of these games, I would say. So between now and March 6th, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth game being on March 6th at Detroit. And then on the 7th, they play at Chicago. So the few of these games are really winnable. Some of them are more challenging than the others. The game against Los Angeles, I think that's going to be an interesting one. The really critical one is the one on February 23rd against Vancouver. That's a team they need to not only chase, but surpass to get into the playoffs. The game against Minnesota is a big one, too. We've seen Clayton Keller play really well in games against Minnesota, mostly because he wants to stick it to Bill Guerin, who's the general manager of the Wild and of Team USA for the Four Nations face-off. Game against New Jersey on the 1st is really big. And then, that game against Detroit on March 6th is probably your deal breaker there. So Utah Hockey Club, and that game against Chicago is very winnable on February 25th. And also, let me just add this. February 25th is a big date. That's our next Nashcast with me and Tyson Nash on SEG Media. I believe we're also going to be on February 27th as well. So make sure you tune in to SEG Media, Utah Hockey Club Plus to check those out. But again, this next stretch of games for the Utah Hockey Club is really critical because this might be a good time to go to the hotline because I'll address this listener's question and continue my thoughts on this. So let's hop into the hotline here. Again, anybody can call into this, all right? I'm not gatekeeping this phone number. It goes to my phone. I'm not going to call you back. So that would be absurd. But you can call in, leave a voicemail, leave a hot take, a chirp, give me some props, give me some loves, whatever you want, right? Who wouldn't love that? But here's a great call. And that number I should add is 919-666-PUCK, Puck 7825. So go ahead and call and leave your spicy hot takes. We got a spicy hot take from a listener right now. So let's dial it up. Let's tune in. Let's hear what this listener has to say. I think it kind of feeds into what I'm talking about already.
Hey, Austin, Jeff Johnson here. Wanted to hear your honest thoughts on the goalie situation. What do you feel is the next step and what the future is for this club to, be a contender? And in comparison to our goalie situation we have right now with Connor Ingram and Karel Vejmelka and Jackson Stauber, right? The third one that we have down right now. What do you think we need to do? What do you think the trade deadline might do to impact that? And going forward, who do you think might need to be on this club possibly for us to make that leap in having somebody really, really good between the pipes that we can count on and or if we already have that. Wanted to hear what you thought, and because I honestly am torn. Big veggie guy myself, and Connor can be great at times, but so Jackson Stauber, that shutout he had was pretty awesome. And got me thinking a little bit. So what do you think, man? Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Jeff, for calling in. Really appreciate that. So Jeff's question is, what do you think the goaltending situation looks like for Utah Hockey Club's future? How does the trade deadline impact that? That's a solid question by Jeff. Again, I think we're going to have a better understanding of what the Utah Hockey Club wants to do a couple games back into this stretch. And I think the reason why Jeff's question also fits into what I'm talking about is because one of these players who could be a tantalizing trade piece for Utah to ship out and receive some assets back. I feel I'm a little scared to say this, okay? I don't want people reacting negatively. I don't want pitchforks and torches in the streets. I don't want people to want to put my head on a stake, right? That wouldn't be good. I'd have a hard time doing the show if my head was placed on a stake, I'll say that. But I think one of the more tantalizing, interesting questions that the Utah Hockey Club is going to have to answer is, who do we send out if we need to start, calling the season a wash. I know their goal is to play competitive games at the end of the year, but at a certain point, it's like we're racing against the clock. The trade deadline's now. We're out of the race. We got to get some assets back and build up for next season. And one of those guys that they might need to send out, and oh my gosh, here comes the scary thing. I'm going to say is Karel Vejmelka. Karel Vejmelka is one of those guys that they are going to have to very strongly consider trading. And here's what I mean. So when I talk about guys that the Utah Hockey Club should consider shipping out, and my buddies over at the Clean Hits podcast did a really great job covering whether or not Utah should be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. My good buddy Trent on the show brought this up as well, and Trent's totally right. He's usually right about a lot of things. Not always. I don't want to give him too much credit. But Karel Vejmelka is a guy that some teams are going to be calling on come trade deadline time, right? And so, again, let me just show you what I mean here. So the criteria for what we're thinking here, right, is so if the Utah Hockey Club is not going to make the playoffs, and that could be clear in the next couple games, they get too far out of the race, they have to consider getting something for assets they were going to lose anyway. And what I'm talking about are these contracts, these unrestricted free agent deals, guys who might walk away in the offseason anyway. There are teams that could use them, teams that could make use out of these guys in their playoff push. And it would behoove Utah to very strongly consider taking calls on them and perhaps getting back assets again for guys they might lose in the postseason anyway. And these guys include Alexander Kerfoot, who I think has been excellent for the Utah Hockey Club. I think his versatility, his utilityness has been a big asset to the team. Nick Bjugstad is another guy that teams might be calling on. He'll be an unrestricted free agent as well. Michael Carconi, I'm kind of surprised he didn't get traded at any point this season. I thought that was kind of in play right here. He's on a really team friendly deal right now, and I think he's been really great at times as well. Other guys that the Utah Hockey Club may have to say goodbye to in the offseason anyway, and therefore should think about trading as well, might be Ian Cole, who's the team's leading shot blocker. But I think there are a lot of contenders who would love to have a guy like him on their team. As the guys on Clean Hit said, he's been in the playoffs every year for the last 10 seasons. So I don't think he would be that eager to miss it this year with Utah Hockey Club. Oli Mata, you see there, is an unrestricted free agent. I see him being a guy the Utah Hockey Club would want to bring back, so I'm not going to lump him into that group. Other guys include Robert Bertuzzo and Nick DeSimone. I think those are probably lower priority guys for the Utah Hockey Club as well. But again, the big name to watch out for, and again, this is going to scare some people, all right? Some people are going to freak out. I've seen people wearing Karel Vejmelka jerseys already, and he's earned that appreciation for the fans. He's had some fantastic outings. He's kept the Utah Hockey Club afloat at times during the season, with Connor Ingram being unavailable due to family issues and injuries. Again, as Jeff put, Jackson Stauber has stepped in. He's their AHL goalie right now at the Tucson Roadrunners. And yes, he did pitch a pitch a shutout against the Vegas Golden Knights. But I think other than that, he's been a little eh. I think the game against Anaheim might have cost him his job at the NHL level and perhaps cost him a future with the Utah Hockey Club. I don't see him being in the Utah Hockey Club's long-term plans. They are committed to Connor Ingram for next year for $1.95 million. Karel Vejmelka will not be under contract with Utah next year as of now. So you figure Vejmelka's due for a big payday anyway. It's going to be interesting to see what he commands in the free agent market. He might be someone who, yes, the Utah Hockey Club could be interested in re-signing, but he also might get a better offer in free agency. I was looking at some of the guys who are going to be in free agency in the NHL in 2025 for the offseason, and the goaltending pool is a little sparse. So again, that really plays nicely for Vejmelka. He's going to cash in big time, especially on the great season that he's had now in a contract year. So if you're the Utah Hockey Club and you figure, you're not going to be in competitive games at the end of the season, just perhaps based on how the next week or so goes, Vejmelka's a guy you probably need to think about moving. And that, it pains me to say that. It really does. Vejmelka has helped this channel produce some great content. Some of my favorite episodes have come from talking about an unbelievable Vejmelka performance. The two that stand out in my mind are the games against Carolina and the game against the Washington Capitals right before the break. So it's going to be very interesting. To answer Jeff's question, I don't have a good answer, Jeff. I think we're going to see some crazy things happen in the next couple weeks. I wouldn't worry too much about Jackson Stauber. I don't see him having a big role with the Utah Hockey Club in the future. And if I'm wrong, wouldn't that be fun? We could clip this and play it later. But I think you'll see some very interesting conversations. So if the Utah Hockey Club comes out of the break and wins their first few games, I would say Vejmelka's probably here. He's probably here for the rest of the season, and as long as, and we'll see how that goes. He could be here even longer. If they lose these couple games out of the break, I think Vejmelka is someone they need to talk about sending out. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But hey, you know what else is going to be interesting how it plays out? The Four Nations face-off finale. I think they have games tomorrow. I believe the United States is playing a meaningless game against Sweden. They're already in the championship game. Canada plays Finland. Winner of that game goes to the championship, I believe. I think we're all expecting Canada to be in that. I think they're a heavy favorite, as I mentioned earlier. But hey, it's been a ton of fun watching the tournament. Again, huge night for American hockey. the other night last night in Montreal. So tip of the cap to the Tkachuk brothers for that. Brady's been a menace. The games against the Senators have been pretty tough for the Utah Hockey Club this year, so super cool to see. But hey, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Subscribing to SLC Puck, do it now. Get in at the ground level. We're almost at 900 subscribers on YouTube, so that's super cool. Let's crank it up. Let's get it going. Let's keep it ripping. And hey, don't forget, life is good, guys. We got a lot of good things going on, so stay tuned for more. SLCPuckShop.shop for merch. All that good stuff, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.